What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. Today I had the opportunity to be a guest speaker at our local PTA meeting. It was the general meeting for the county, and I talked about autism, of course. I talked about diagnosis, what to expect going into the diagnosis, who's going to be there, where to get that done at, the resources available, and then what comes after, what's next, from a parent's perspective, from my point of view. Now, obviously, many of these resources that I did list in this speech are local resources, but most areas are going to have something very similar, and I will provide some links down in the video description for you guys so you can check out what might be available in your area. Okay, let's rewind to earlier today and jump right into the talk. Hi, thank you very much for having me. My name is Asa Moss. I'm a YouTube creator. That's probably not somebody you've had before. But I want to talk about diagnosis, resources, and then what's next for autism. When you have a child that you suspect may have autism, it's becoming such a big thing now. The current numbers are right at 1 in 45 diagnosed with autism. So people are seeing it more in the media, and they're seeing it more in the news, and they're questioning, does my child, is this a developmental delay, what's going on? So I want to talk about that a little bit. So yeah, like I said, I'm a YouTube creator. I have a YouTube channel called Fathering Autism. We started it just about a year and a half ago, and it has grown very, very quickly. We now do YouTube full-time, as well as other things, but I'm also an advocate. I'm an autism advocate for not just my daughter, but for other parents and other individuals with autism. I'm a videographer. That's why I have my camera set up over there. So, and apparently I'm a public speaker. This is like the third time I've spoken at anything, so I'm new to this part of it, but I'm enjoying it, talking to you guys. And I make amazing kids. That's not just my doing. My wife helped out with that, but I have a 16-year-old. He is a student at Paxson, and he is gifted, and he's an amazing young man. Very proud of him. And then I have a 12-year-old, my daughter Abigail. She is nonverbal autistic. As far as the spectrum is concerned, she would be considered low functioning. Just to give you an example, we're working on toilet training right now. That's a big thing, a big goal for us. She is very bright, very attitudinal. She's a very typical 12-year-old when it comes to that kind of thing. But that's kind of who I am. Our experience with it. We've been. She was diagnosed when she was 2, so we've been on this path for 10 years now. Okay, so as far as the diagnosis is concerned, if you have parents or you're a parent yourself that you don't know where to get your diagnosis done at, behavioral specialists is one of them, and then developmental pediatricians. There are pediatricians and then separate developmental pediatricians, and then specially trained psychologists. There's actually a resource that I found because I was looking at we had our Abigail's diagnosis done 10 years ago. When we had that done, we went to Virginia to have her initial diagnosis done because there was a waiting list here. The second opinion that we wanted, we got from the Medical University of South Carolina because there was still a waiting list here. 2 years after her initial diagnosis, we got a message saying, "Hey, would you like to come in for a diagnosis of your daughter?" So that's how it was then. It's much better now. There are much better resources, many more people that can perform that diagnosis for you. So if you go to Autism Speaks, they're a great resource for information. I like them for information, the facts, because they're not local, so they don't know about Duval County. They don't know about the resources here necessarily, but they do have a nice search engine where you can put in, your area. Like, for example, here I did the 32246 zip code within 25 miles. There's 10 places that you can talk to about a diagnosis. So good resource for that. So that's where. The what to expect with the autism diagnosis. There is the modified checklist of autism in toddlers. That's something that you can do yourself. It's otherwise known as MChat. You can go online, you can take the MChat. It's sort of like a survey, tells you whether or not you need to seek a professional for diagnosis. Good resource for parents. Kind of funny, when we had our daughter's diagnosis, during the diagnostic process, it looked like play. They were playing. Like, how is this telling me my child has autism? I don't know. But they play with the child and interact with him and to determine, and of course there's observation that goes on. But this is a full team. It's a full team that's administering and observing. In many cases, not in every case, you may have just a couple of people. If you go into the diagnosis process, but you would have occupational therapists and speech language pathologists and possibly ABA therapists. But it's a big group of people. We had I think 5 people over 2 days when we were at the Medical University of South Carolina. But they pretty much play with them. It's not hard on the child at all. They have a good time. Resources. So I like local resources. I'll talk about first Autism Speaks because I spoke about them before. They're an informational resource. You know what is autism? Go to Autism Speaks. They'll tell you. They have a lot of that info. I prefer local resources because it's going to give you what you need for your child because it has to be local. Heal. We talked about Heal a little bit earlier. I'm sorry you guys got me because they were supposed to speak, but I appreciate you having me anyway. Heal is a great resource. They provide grants. They provide iPads for ESC classrooms, adult services. So like you said, everywhere from diagnosis all the way up to adulthood. I'm helping with job placement for autistic adults, family services, and they have my only issue there is you go on their website and it's so overwhelming. The amount of resources. It's a good thing, but it's also as a new parent, you're like, holy cow, there's a lot of information here. But anything that you could possibly need is on that site. The cool thing about the autism community is you have some really passionate parents. You have people that have created what they didn't find. They didn't find the resources that they wanted, a school that fit their child. They made it. The school that our daughter goes to was created by a parent. So, one of those groups, for example, is Northeast Florida Advocates for Autism and Related Disabilities. They do grants for families. They do weighted blankets. They do parent-to-parent support groups. If you don't know what a weighted blanket is, it's my daughter, she seeks deep pressure. It's one of the sensory things that she seeks. And they make these weighted blankets, and they're very expensive to purchase them. They make them and they give them to families because not everybody can afford them. So they do stuff like that. That's a great nonprofit, created by a mother up in Yulee, actually. And then Making Strides for Autism. They have a Dadvocates social group. It's kind of a support group. We're dads, so we don't like to call it a support group. Like we need support from other people, but so we call it a social group. But then they have their monthly newsletter that goes out. They have autism-friendly spaces that they've created. They do autism-friendly nights at local restaurants, things like that. And then they do family and individual support in the community. So a few great resources. And then, of course, myself, being a local dad and out there in the public eye, we do have videos about potty training. We have videos about getting a haircut. We have all those resources on our YouTube channel as well. So what's next? After, after the diagnosis, you know what that looks like. What's next? Because that's the hardest part, and I want to speak from a parent's point of view. After you get that diagnosis, one of the most important things you can do is start to build your tribe. You build your group of people that are going to care about your child's progression as much as you are. That are going to work as hard, nobody's going to work as hard, but work hard for your child, just like you are. One thing to remember in that tribe, though, you are the advocate. You cannot rely on anybody to do what you're going to do as a parent, because it's your job. Another important point is it's one day at a time. They call it caregiver burnout, and as parents, we are caregivers of a special needs person, and you can experience burnout very, very quickly because you're giving it everything all the time, 100% nonstop, and that does cause issues, physically, mentally. It's a hard thing to deal with. You have to take care of yourself. It's absolutely pertinent. They tell you when you're on an airplane, when the masks drop down, you put one on yourself first, then your child, and that's very true. If you can't take care of yourself, especially mentally, you're not going to be able to do that for your child. That's a big issue that I see. And just remember that, like I said, that huge list that HEAL has, on their site. It's a great resource, but it can be very, very overwhelming. And as a parent, you feel like you're not doing enough. You always feel like you're not doing enough, like you could be doing more. And that's just not the case, because I've said it many times to other parents, if you feel like you're not doing enough, then you're doing what you should be doing. So, lastly, and this is always the tough one for me to say because I've experienced it, but when you walk into the room to have your child diagnosed, when we walked in, we had Abigail. When we walked out, we still had Abigail. She on paper, she had autism. She's still the same person. And that, sorry, I've said that like 10 times. It's hard for me every time. That's the important thing for parents to remember, is that that is still the same child. Doesn't matter what the diagnosis is. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. If you want to get a hold of me, my email address is up here. I've got some cards sitting out on the table that you can pick up as well. And be sure to check out our channel. And we definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question, but just to let you know that it doesn't matter what kind of sickness they have. 12, 13 years, we go through the same.
Yep, that's true.
The same question: am I doing enough? What am I not doing? You know, I mean, but you know that adds it to it. But
Yeah, I can definitely draw the parallel between my neurotypical 16-year-old and my 12-year-old all the time, and I'm like, it's no different. No different, no matter what, autism or not. We have the same things we experience. Teenagers are teenagers, so. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, goal number 1 for me when public speaking is to not get so emotional that I'm not able to then speak. I'm working on that still. I hope you guys enjoyed that very brief talk. This is obviously a small part of a very large conversation. We're going to continue that conversation in future videos. I just want to give the footnotes to start with, and then we'll go into depth with it. Of course, if you have any questions, please put them down below in the comments and let me know what part you may have questions on, and we can dive deeper into that, like I said, in future videos. But thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you maybe learned something from it. Hit that like button for me. A little encouragement as I'm getting more and more into the public speaking. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.